our API, we have two customers. So this customer called Alex and also this one right here called Jamila. Now you can see that the ID is the unique identifier for these two customers. What I want to do is to be able to have an endpoint whereby I can pass any given ID and then look for that ID in my database. So how do we do that? If I collapse this, and what we're going to do is within main, let's have a second endpoint. So here I'm going to basically just have a second endpoint or a second method first, and this will be a customer. So we want to return a given customer, and here this will be get and then customer, and the path cannot be the same. So what we're going to use is actually something called path and then variable. So if I say / and then here I'm going to say ID, or we can say customer ID if you want, right? So customer ID or ID. Now this ID will enable us to do stuff like this. So here I can say get, so let me just basically paste this here. So I can say get and then customer or customers / and then this can be anything. So this could be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, literally any number. It could even be this random number here. So this will actually change. So this is something called PathVariable, right? So here, this is actually predefined. So this doesn't change, but this right here can change. So the way we actually capture that from the path, right? So this value here, and then pass it within our method is by saying at and then path and then variable. Now we have to give it the name. So the name has to be the exact same name. So ID as like this. So this ID matches this one, because we can have multiple path variables. So we could have / and then let's say cars right here, and then / and then the car ID as well, right? So here then we'd say car ID, and here this would be customer and then ID, right? So if you have more than one, but currently we just have one, so let's just say customer ID, and let's actually name this as customer ID. Let me put this on a new line, and here the data type for this will be an integer. So integer and then customer ID. Right, now we have the ID, and what we have to do is go to our database and then look for a customer with that given ID. So the way we do it is as follows. I'm going to say customers dot and then filter, and actually we have to say stream and then filter, and the predicate is that we have a customer here. So this is the customer where the customer dot ID equals to the customer ID that we pass. So let me just put this on a new line so you see properly. So that is our stream. Then let's say dot find and then first, or else we're going to throw an exception. So or else throw, and here for now let's just say we're going to throw a new illegal argument exception, and we're going to have the message as customer. And if I put this on a new line so you see everything, so customer, and then we want to have, I think we can have these dot and then formatted and then pass the customer ID, and I think this has to be % and then s. So this is better. So customer with ID, and put that within brackets, not, and then found. Cool. So basically this now will give me a customer, which I can simply say return, just like that. Now if you don't know what this is doing, so let me just extract this to a variable. So the whole thing, so I'm just selecting, pressing Command W, extract to a variable, and this is, let's just say this is the customer, and we're going to change this to C because it cannot have the same name, and this to C as well. Right, so if there's a customer with a given ID, we just return it back. Otherwise, we throw an illegal argument exception. Let's now test this out. So if I restart the application, so I've just selected main, adding configuration. So this is now up and running. And let's go to generated requests. And now in here, so the path will be API v1 customers and then any given ID. And I actually need to have these to denote a new request. So let's just send the request to get all customers. So you can see that we have Alex with ID 1, Jamila. Let's try and get Alex with ID 1 in here. And if I send the request, have a look, we got Alex. And this time, if you look carefully, this is an object instead of an array of objects. So before, have a look, this was an array of 2 objects, whereas now it's an array of 1 object. If we get, so let's get, it's just here. So if we try and get number 2, which is Jamila, send the request, you can see that we have Jamila in here. So there we go, Jamila right here. And if I say number 3, there is nobody with number 3. So if I send this request, you can see that something happened. So if I go to the console, have a look, we have an exception, customer with ID 3 not found, which is cool. Now, basically, you can also test this with Postman. Let me show you quickly. So here, API v1 customers, send, you can see everyone, / and then 2. This will give us Jamila. And if I say /3, send, you see that we have a 500 internal server error. Now, this is actually incorrect. So the status 500 internal server error is incorrect. And I will basically take a section to explain more about handling exceptions so that we can get the correct status code for this request, because there's nothing wrong with our server. Our server did handle the request appropriately, and instead the client did send the wrong ID. So this is a client error, which would be a 400 instead. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Otherwise, catch me on the next one.